Welcome back to the lunch break. KDUS AM 1060. Appreciate you making this show a part of your day. 602-260-1060, the phone number. If you want to join the conversation, and I fully anticipate you're going to want to join the conversation after we talk about two other pass rushers that the Arizona Cardinals could pursue in a trade, because we spent a lot of yesterday's show talking about Hassan Reddick, him being available. Producer Dylan, it is my semi-hourly check with you to see if Hassan Reddick has been traded yet. Doesn't look like it so far. Okay, then we can proceed with this conversation, because maybe Hassan Reddick's not your cup of tea. Maybe you look at him from his early stint here in Arizona. Maybe you look at the fact that he is already 30 years old, is going to be 31 next season. You're going to have to give him a multi-year contract extension. So now you're paying a guy big money when he's 32, 33, even maybe 34 years old. And you're not on board with that. You say, Chris, that doesn't match the timeline. That doesn't match what we're trying to build here in Arizona. That's not in line with what Monty Ossenfort is trying to do. Okay. You're out on Hassan Reddick. Let me give you two other pass rushers that could be available. And I say could because we don't know if the two teams in question here are realistically interested in moving these two players that I'm about to talk about. But I think it's very easy to look at these two teams and say they probably should be interested in listening on these two players. And we'll start first in Cleveland with Myles Garrett. He's 29, going to be 30 next year. Okay, a year younger than Hassan Reddick. So if you're worried about the age, I just bought you another year of peak performance. And Myles Garrett is already under contract through his age 31 season. So if you were to trade for him, you would have him for 2025 and for 2026. And maybe when you trade for him, you could sweeten the pot a little bit with a contract extension, raise the money a little bit, add another year onto the deal, and get yourself through 2027 with Myles Garrett as a pass rusher. Now, Dan Patrick, who you can listen to every morning here on this station, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., talked a little bit about this yesterday. And he floated the idea out there of the Detroit Lions going all in and trading for Myles Garrett. Team is 1-5. They're not going anywhere. That quarterback situation, and can we just talk about that quarterback situation for just a second? You trade for Deshaun Watson. You take on all of the baggage that comes with that. You then double down on that decision by giving him a fully guaranteed contract, the first of that we've ever seen. And now you're tripling down while he is absolutely torpedoing your franchise by continuing to play him. And Kevin Stefanski, after every game, walks up to the podium and says, Deshaun Watson is our starting quarterback. What did you bring Jameis Winston in here for then? You have a veteran, capable quarterback. Is it going to be pretty? No. Are there going to be some boneheaded mistakes? Are there going to be some boneheaded interceptions? Absolutely. But that offense is going to look a lot better if you turn it over to Jameis Winston than it looks right now with Deshaun Watson. Now, they're going to try to give it a try because Nick Chubb's going to come back this week, and so they think that should probably help them a little bit because they're a run-first, establish the run, and that should open things up for Deshaun Watson. I can see the press clippings now all week there in Cleveland. But they're 1-5. They're not going anywhere with Deshaun. He's not the quarterback that he was at the tail end of his Houston days. He is not the quarterback that is a magician back there and can make plays happen out of nowhere and is going to be able to turn this thing around. They're 1-5. They just traded Amari Cooper yesterday. Now, there's a difference between trading a veteran wide receiver like Amari Cooper, who's only on a one-year deal, than it would be the seismic shift to trade a Myles Garrett. But that's really the asset they have to be able to quickly rebuild this thing on the fly, because you're not getting out from under Deshaun Watson's money, at least not this offseason, probably not next offseason. And so the one lever you could pull for a team that's not going anywhere, they're 1-5. They might fire Kevin Stefanski at the end of the season. If you're going to fire the head coach, who is going to take on that coaching role? I know there's only 32 of them. I got it. But who is going to take on that role to deal with Deshaun Watson, probably with an edict from ownership to play Deshaun Watson? Nobody's going to sign up for that. And so then it's going to be another year of Myles Garrett wasted. And then that contract's going to be over, and you're not going to have anything that comes from it. And I know he's beloved there. He's a superstar. He's one of the top 5 pass rushers in the league. I get all of that. But at some point as a franchise, you have to make a decision that this window is closed. And in the NFL, you don't have a window if you don't have a competent quarterback. And the Cleveland Browns don't have a competent quarterback. So the window is slamming shut. It's not one of those windows that is slowly closing. No. That thing is slamming shut. And so trading Myles Garrett allows you to acquire some additional assets so that you can try to open the window just as quickly as it closed. So I don't know if they're going to be interested in it. It might be an off-season thing. They might see this thing through. This might have to get total dumpster fire territory before Myles Garrett trade possibilities are out there. I do know that people are talking about it. I do know that there are stories you can see all over the place talking about potential landing spots for Myles Garrett. You have one of the top radio hosts in all of the country talking about, man, I'd call Cleveland and see what they would want for Myles Garrett. And he doesn't do that offhand. So that's one option if you're the Arizona Cardinals. The other option, this guy's even younger. This guy's under contract for the same amount of time that Myles Garrett is under contract for. I briefly mentioned him yesterday offhand, and I said, you know what? Let's explore this a little bit more. Now, the Raiders have denied that this is even remotely a possibility. Mark Davis, while he's introducing new owner Tom Brady, and maybe we'll get into that at the end of the show today. I don't know where we're going to fit that in. And by the way, at the end of the show, each and every day, we're going to do a new thing called The Leftovers. All the stories that I am unable to get through over the course of the first 7 segments of the show, we're going to save for the end. And a lot of owner talk, I think. We'll talk about new owner Tom Brady. We're going to play a Jerry Jones cut from yesterday that I didn't get to yesterday that I definitely want to get to today. But that was all of the noise yesterday. And Mark Davis at the owners' meetings talked about it and denied the idea of potentially trading Maxx Crosby. Said not happening. And sure, you can posture. You can say that you're not trading Maxx Crosby, and Maxx Crosby wants to be there. And Maxx Crosby is only 27 years old and is going to be 28 next year and is under contract through his age 29 season, so through 2026. And there's still a lot of juice left in the tank there, and you can see him signing another extension maybe this next offseason and being there long term. I can easily see that. But the problem is with the Raiders. They got a new GM who's trying to sort all this out in Tom Telesco. You have a head coach that you gave the job after being the interim head coach, and he got vouched for by a player who's no longer there, who's now with the New York Jets, and Devontae Adams. So that doesn't feel like that's for long. Doesn't feel like Antonio Pierce is going to be the long-term answer for the Raiders at head coach. You don't have a quarterback, and you're just stuck as a franchise. You spent big money on Christian Wilkins. You kept Devontae Adams in the offseason when you probably could have gotten more for him then than you did this past week. You're stuck. You're stuck in neutral. And so it's easy to see where they get to a place where a team calls them up and blows them away. And the Cardinals are the team that can do that. They have their entire draft capital for 2025, their entire draft capital for 2026. When you are a new front office and you take over a franchise like the Cardinals, where you have to build the fundamentals. And what are the fundamentals? There are 5 pillars, I think, to building a good football team. And these are not going to be rocket science. This is going to be what every team needs to do. You have to have a quarterback. You have to have a left tackle to protect the quarterback. You have to have a stud wide receiver for the quarterback to get the ball to. On defense, you have to have the shutdown corner that can stop that team's wide receiver. And then you also need the edge rusher that can get after the quarterback. Well, the Cardinals have checked a lot of those boxes with this organization, this front office. They drafted Paris Johnson, offensive lineman, check. They drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver, check. They spent draft capital on Garrett Williams and Max Melton. Okay, we're investing some resources in the corner spot. Quarterback, they inherited Kyler Murray. We'll see. The jury's still out there. The one thing they haven't done is the edge group. They haven't made that big splash. They haven't made that big investment. And there could be superstar players available to this team, available to this front office to go out and get. Maxx Crosby would make a massive difference to this team, even more so than Hassan Reddick would. Myles Garrett would make an immense impact to this group. These are the types of opportunities that Monty Ossenfort needs to and should be exploring. These are the moves that are going to make this team better. These are the moves that are going to allow this core that they are trying to build to ascend at the right time. We talked about windows with the Browns. The Cardinals are in the process of opening that window, opening that championship window. Well, guess what? As you open that window, these are the things that help push that window up and completely open it. And so you should call up Cleveland. You should call up the Raiders. Hey, Mark, I know you said that you weren't really interested, but what if we did this? And if you blow them away with an offer with all the draft capital you have, then you should make those types of decisions.